You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt Olson. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. Hello and welcome to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast. I'm your host, Britt Olson, and I am so excited to have you tuning in here with me today for a very, very special episode. This is not only my final episode of 2020, which is my very first season of the podcast, but this episode also features my husband, my soulmate, my twin flame, my just wonderful best friend who I am so proud to call my partner for life, Dan Olson. And he is such an incredible individual. I know everyone who knows him personally thinks so as well. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but he truly is just such a beautiful soul. Inside and out, everyone who gets to meet him, he really just graces them with his warm personality, who he is, his strength, his wisdom, and he is just truly such a stand-up guy. I'm just so honored to be his partner for life and his, better half and other half and everything like that. I just am so in love with our relationship and just really with where we have come in such a short 5 years of knowing each other and being together. I don't want to spoil it, as we will get into how we met, our wedding last year, which as we are just recapping our wedding, I do want to make note that I know in 2020, there has been a lot of canceled weddings, canceled family engagements, and this has just been a really rough year for all of us. So if you are someone that did have to cancel plans in 2020, we are right there with you. I think all of us are at this point, but I do just want to highlight that we chat through the details of our wedding solely for the purpose of really looking to inspire those who are, whether seeking to still get married one day or just are confused in life and looking for a little bit of inspiration, as our wedding was just such a symbolic look into the power of just trusting yourself, following your intuition, being original, understanding that, hey, it's okay. You don't have to follow the same road that everyone else has followed, and just really honoring who you are and sharing yourself with others, sharing what you love, sharing experiences, and just really the power of connection and that do you. Always, always, always do you. And it's not easy. We highlight all the wonderful parts of our wedding, but trust me, the whole planning process leading up to it, it was not all rainbows and butterflies. There were tears, emotions, all the things that really seem to happen when it comes to wedding planning. But I did just want to make note that we're not here to gloat. We solely wanted to chat through the experience for the purpose of really inspiring those out there, whether those who are looking to have a wedding of their own one day or are simply just feeling lost and looking for a new outlet in life, and to remind you that it's okay to trust your intuition. It's okay to follow your gut. And yes, people are not going to understand it at first. That's for sure. How could they? It's you. It's the truth that resides inside of you. However, when you follow it with pure intention and good heart, one day others will understand and your life will really continue to just unfold around you. So at the end of the day, trust your gut. It will never lead you astray. And if you take anything from this episode, I do hope that you do understand that underlying message that really just reigns true throughout our relationship as a couple. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. I will let you all tune in here. Definitely listen through to the end because Dan actually flips the microphone and starts interviewing me. So that was super fun, unexpected. I did enjoy that side of it. And yeah, it's just such a fun time. This was also our first episode that we've done together. I think it's kind of funny. We both sound a little bit more serious than silly, which is kind of funny. But yeah, anyway, enjoy. And thank you for being here with me on my first season of the podcast. It is truly such a blessing. I'm so honored. And thank you for sticking with me. I'm so excited for 2021. I have so many fun ideas and new guests and just really we're just going to be taking the podcast to a whole new level. So look forward to that. This is my final episode of 2020, just so that way I can slow down a little bit, reallocate my time, find that creative space and freedom so I can show up better for all of you and my guests come 2021. Thank you all so much. We do have links as well in the show notes for details on our wedding vendors, how to connect with Dan, our family foundation, and then of course my work with Ambu and all of my wellness programs that are up and live in my new online portal. So definitely go check those out if you need a last minute Christmas gift or if you are looking to start out the new year really, really strong. I highly recommend checking out my programs. I'd love to schedule a call with all of you. And yeah, let's connect as well. Definitely find me on Instagram at Loving Your Own Soul. If you haven't already, I would love to connect. I would love to hear what you all think of the episode. And without further ado, let's go ahead and turn it over to Dan Olson. Dan, hello.
Hi, Britt.
I am so excited to bring you on the podcast. This is your first introduction to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, where the listeners have definitely heard your name before, but now they get to hear you and get to know you a little bit better.
I'm excited to be here. I've definitely listened to every episode so far, and it's been amazing in the travels and the journeys you've been on and everything like that. And I'm excited to finally be on here.
Excellent. For anyone who is new around here or is not familiar with your name or who you are, our relationship, you are my husband, which still feels a little bit weird to say that. We just celebrated last weekend our first year of marriage, which is remarkable. And we have just been through quite the journey of life. It's funny, earlier today, before we sat down here, I was thinking of how when I was initially wanted to start my podcast earlier this year in 2020, I had the concept of let's record an episode all about our wedding last year in November of 2019, because it was just so phenomenal, so amazing, and we just had so much that we wanted to share. And I don't know why I thought let's just hit it off and try figuring out how to record two people at once after not really knowing anything at all about podcasting. Really was watching YouTube videos trying to get us set up. Got a little frustrated. The energy wasn't right. We recorded, I think, 4 different times.
Yeah, it was quite a few. It was definitely quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few. And it just didn't work out. But now I get to close 2020 with you being featured as a final guest, a final episode. And I honestly really just love the way everything aligned to bring us here, closing out 2020 together and getting to introduce the listeners to you, the love of my life. And yeah, I just, it comes to, I know we talk a lot about just surrendering to the flow of things and trying to not let life control you or control life, and that there's always a better plan in place. And I just think this is really symbolic. So I'm excited for you to be on here. I'm excited
to be on here as well. And after you just doing that intro, it gives me chills. It gives me goosebumps to already think that have been married for a year. 2020's closing out. It's been a wild ride for sure. A lot of changes, but it's been amazing. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Absolutely.
You just got to roll with it. And for anyone who is obviously listening to us right now, if you hear our voices, you are obviously listening to us, but we are actually sitting outside on our back porch. So there might be a little bit of nature in the background. We live on a wonderful lake in a very quiet neighborhood, but we do have lots of birds and bugs and the wind and the trees and just all the wonderful things of nature. So if you do hear anything in the background, that is because we are sitting outside to kind of set the scene. We just watched a wonderful sunset overlooking the lake, as we do every evening. It is a Sunday evening recording this, and we just did a little cacao ritual ceremony to really close out the previous week and kind of honor and set some intentions and manifestations for the next week ahead.
Yeah, and if you hear a car or something like that, we do have some stuff go by, so we'll try to do the best we can, but I'm excited, and it was amazing. Actually, there's a boat going by right now, which is, like Britt said, we're very fortunate and very loving to be on the lake, and it's been amazing, and yeah, today was a perfect Sunday.
Yeah.
Great way to wrap up the week, and Britt said she led us on a cacao ceremony meditation, and it was perfect, and now we're here.
I love it. Earlier today, I was in the shower Sometimes I get a lot of thoughts in the shower, and I was thinking of how my podcast is called Loving Your Own Soul. But this episode here together that we are recording reminds me of really just kind of calling this episode Loving Your Own Soulmate, because we get to really talk about our relationship. I would love to really just kind of dive in. I don't have a structure for this, just to let it flow. That might have been a little cheesy too, which is totally fine. I don't mind it. You can laugh at me. But I would love to, from your perspective, Dan, just give the listeners just a quick little story of, we don't need to go into full detail unless you want to, but just how we met.
Yeah, so pretty crazy. You actually bought a paddleboard from me. I used to be a paddleboard rep. I was a manufacturer rep for about 7 years for various brands. And at that time, I was repping Amundsen paddleboards, and a good friend of ours, Taryn, who you used to work with while you were at the USA Water Ski, noticed that I had posted some paddleboards for sale, and he came over and ended up buying a paddleboard from me. And I kind of was like, whoa, who's this? This is, and like, you made my heart go pitter patter. I know it sounds there's probably going to be quite a few cliches that I'll use throughout this and that kind of stuff, not trying to be that way, but that whole love at first sight, I didn't never really believe in it. But when I did see you, I was like, whoa, okay, there's definitely something special here with this one. And then asked you to go to lunch with me, and you almost actually canceled, which is crazy, because I remember you saying you're so nervous and all that kind of stuff. And so was I. I mean, I was those first dates and that kind of stuff. And then our first official date was New Year's Eve. Pretty crazy, kind of a big one. Normally you don't go out on a first date on New Year's Eve, but we've never really had a normal way of going about things. Great time over at the beach, great dinner, great fireworks, all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to say the rest is history, but it definitely kind of is crazy where it's like we just hit it off. You actually then left shortly thereafter for Thailand. I took care of your dog. Everything moved very, very quickly. Within that first 6-7 months, I ended up meeting your parents. You know mine. You actually worked with my dad before. So it was kind of one of those funny things that you actually knew my dad well before I knew you. My mom obviously loved you right away. It was one of those things that everything just kind of took off. And I mean, we spent 4th of July with your parents and all that kind of stuff. And I think even your mom or dad, somebody was like, she doesn't bring boys home ever. So there's definitely something here. And
which is true.
Yeah, which is, and I think I drove through the night to get there because I was coming from Wisconsin or something like that from an event and some other stuff. And it was awesome. It's been a wild ride. We've definitely had our fair shares of ups and downs and roller coasters of life and love. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, it definitely has. I feel like our relationship as well, just right from the get-go, is very symbolic as to when something works and when you fall into alignment with yourself, the place you're supposed to be, the work you've even just a gift of the work that you've done previously. And it really just flowed immediately. And yeah, that first date, first night, New Year's Eve, I mean, quite a holiday to live up to. Definitely a lot of pressure that comes on the back end, quote unquote, if you want to give into all of that. But it was honestly, like, for who we are and how we are as individuals, I wouldn't have expected anything less. And it really just set the bar for such a fun relationship. And yeah, we've been through a lot. We've had our ups and downs, but I think, meeting that person, your quote unquote soulmate, twin flame. I don't want to get too labely because I know everyone has their own opinion of what those words mean. And sometimes a soulmate, people say, is someone who you can have multiple soulmates in your life. They're really individuals who come and go. What is a soulmate, etc. Again, like I said, I'm not really going to get too hung up on the labels of it, but it was just, it worked, it clicked. I felt more comfortable with you than I had really ever felt in my life with another male counterpart that wasn't a family member or something like that. And it really just, it flowed from the beginning. And I am just ever so grateful. Even early on in our relationship, I was like, what did I do to deserve a love like this? Like, how did this suddenly just literally fall into my lap? This guy who really checks off everything and more. Like, you are truly the one who I definitely did manifest, but then also you're so much more than that. You're such a bigger version of that, and you just bring so much to the table. You keep me on my toes endlessly, and yeah, I just have so much fun with you. And I've been through definitely turmoil in different relationships and just going through the journey that is life. I mean, we all have mountains to climb and everything like that. It's life. It's light and it's dark, and it's the balance of it, and it's how you walk through situations. But with our relationship, we also incurred so much so soon, far more than many other couples. Coming up this January, we'll be going on 5 years of being together in total. New Year's Eve will also kind of always be our anniversary as well. November 16th, 2019 is when we got married. And that will always be a time that we will celebrate. But I think for us, New Year's Eve is also just very symbolic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, for us, I think it's that, obviously it's a pivotal time. It's everything. Good thing for me, it's an easy day to remember. But it's also one of those things, for both of us, it was such an important and such a pivotal time that it will always be with us as that date.
Absolutely. So that was how we met. That was the beginning of our relationship. We kind of did on and off long distance, really, I would say up until COVID and quarantine. The beginning of 2020 is honestly the most consecutive time we've ever spent together. You were traveling a bunch with work. I was traveling a bunch with work. We kept busy schedules, doing fun things. I mean, what's most memorable to me at the beginning of our relationship is how we'd meet up in an airport and we'd like have a snack together and then go our separate ways, and just really honored the time that we could spend together. Thank goodness for FaceTime and phone calls, and even that period as well of doing long distance with someone who suddenly wanted to FaceTime and wanted to see me all the time caught me completely off guard. I was so not used to that. So that was another just little moment of growth and opening for me. But I just think our relationship has been just so much fun. And like you said, we've been through it. We had your health journey that we've been through. I know I don't really personally really feel like explaining that. I think I've kind of talked about it a little bit before. I don't know if you feel called to explain that time or just kind of jump into the last year.
Yeah, I think the whole health journey, a lot of people, if you've heard Britt talk about it probably on certain things, and me being diagnosed with a super rare. The only thing I want to touch base on was the fact that you were in Bali at that time, got on a plane, flew 50 some odd hours back to me. This is when we're still just dating, boyfriend, girlfriend. So when you kind of came back, I was like, whoa, like, not that I'd ever second guessed it, but it definitely hit home with me. And I was like, this girl is above and beyond, like 100%. I already knew it at that point, but it was like that extra cherry on top, that thing that it meant so much to me. It was insane. And it was one of those things. And I think, speaking about this now, I think I kind of was like, well, if you want to leave, you can leave, like give you this out in a way. And you're like, absolutely not. Like, I'm in this for the long haul. And it was a weird, pivotal time for me for sure. But we don't need to get into it. Basically, I got diagnosed with a super rare autoimmune disease. We've got it under control right now. I'm happy. I'm healthy. That's what matters.
Absolutely. I think it would be fun for us to do an episode solely on your healing journey and your experience at some point, just because it is a little unique as well in that the female, I really stepped up as the main caretaker role. I mean, I was really fighting for you. Things did not feel right intuitively based on everything that was going on. And we've really uncovered a lot since then. And just from a holistic perspective, and you're doing better than ever. But we started a nonprofit because of it. But I do think it would be a fun episode to maybe dive into, maybe upcoming year. But it's very symbolic of the saying that I say all the time: things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could spend hours on everything that unfolded and everything that came up of that. But like I said, we don't have, as of this time for this podcast, we'll let that for another one. Guys, tune in to a later date.
Absolutely. So let's chat a little bit about our wedding, because we definitely had a unique wedding for sure. And then I would just love to, after that, kind of jump into really 2020 and what we incurred back to the very beginning of the year and just spending so much time together, being newly married. You had a job change. I did a lot of changes. I mean, this was definitely collectively as a group, obviously COVID, not a new word that we've all been through, the pandemic, quarantine, everything that's gone on, the election, all of the racial injustice that was really brought to the surface. But let's chat November 2019 and our wedding, and wow, with where we sit literally a year from now, so glad we got married when we did, because we almost considered pushing it off.
Yeah, we had gotten engaged the year before in November 23rd.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which was, when you think of it as like a lot of people kind of take their time with weddings or some people rush them, we kind of were like, we're on the fence with my old previous job. It was, when's the best time to do it with travel and slow seasons and that kind of stuff. And I think you and I both kind of sat down. We're like, let's push it to next spring. We'll do it in April, whatever. And then finally it was like, no, you know what? Why are we waiting? Let's get it done in November. So basically less than a year. And kudos to you. I mean, I know this sounds again like, the wife does all the work. I mean, we definitely did it collectively, but you were the one that were doing a lot of the research, all that kind of stuff. You definitely did quite a bit of stuff, and I'm forever grateful for that. But it was also just, you cultivated the perfect day, the perfect week. It was amazing. The people that we put around us, the staff, friends, family, all that, hands down was the best week of my life, without a question.
Absolutely. So a lot of people who end up getting married, whether they mean it or not, I like to believe that they do mean the phrase that their wedding was the best day of their life. It's the best week of their life. Ours was very unique. And I think a lot of our guests would agree that it was, for them, one of their top weeks or nights of their life as well. And for those who are not aware, we got married on November 16th, 2019. I think I already said that, down in Rincon, Puerto Rico, which is the western side of the country of Puerto Rico. It is a magical little surf town. It was truly incredible. However, Dan, I would love to know, like I was saying, a lot of people say that their wedding was the best day ever or the best week of their lives, etc. What about ours made it the best week of your life? Or what would you say was so unique about it?
I think for me, it just came down to the people that were around us, that surrounded us, and everything that it kind of cultivated, because a lot of people turned it into that vacation. So they came down a little bit earlier, they stayed a little bit late. It definitely, to me, it just was like that, the family aspect of it. It was like a family of 70 and everybody got along. We actually, crazy thing, we never had that like really drunk uncle that got way out of hand or anything like that. Like, I would say the party was amazing, but it never was too out of hand. And some of the people that I think came to the party definitely have had their fair share of being out of hand or anything like that. You guys know who you are when I say that.
All with good intentions.
All in good with good intentions, but it just was one of those things that we just had so much to be grateful for, so much love, and everybody just, you could just feel it. Everybody just had that amazing free loving. I mean, guys were jumping in the pool at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, like right after dinner. Some of my friends taught my dad how to breathe fire that night. Like, it just stuff like that, which was so cool. And it was just everything about it, and the entire staff that they had there as well, and the food and just the setting of everything. It just was very, very relaxed, but very professional, very elegant. And just, you kind of, if you were in a bad mood, you couldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you and I, we came down just about, actually it was a week before the wedding. So that way we were able to really slow down, unwind, enjoy Rincon and the beautiful country of Puerto Rico and the people, and be able to surf and hang with our friends and go on adventures. And so many of our guests and family members also came down a few days, if not a week beforehand as well, to really make a vacation out of it. And I think that part as well was so special, because we chose that location everyone who was coming to our wedding was coming from different locations. I think we counted, what was it, like 14 different states? I don't want to exaggerate. I can't remember.
I think it was like 12 or 14, I think is what it was right around in there.
So for us, like a destination wedding, quote unquote, we had a destination wedding. But honestly, nowadays, what's not a destination wedding? Had we done it in Florida, people still would have been traveling from all over the place. We only really have a small handful in Florida, actually. So
yeah, if we would have done it in North Carolina, where you're from,
everyone would be traveling. So we were like, we love to travel, experiencing new places, making an adventure out of it, having fun. Being in a different country is just something that's a part of who we are. So we elected to do our wedding that way. And I think because our goal was to really treat our guests to a unique experience, and an experience that is very much symbolic of us and who we are. And Puerto Rico as well. I mean, Rincon is so special. It's also U.S. territory. So that makes it super easy for people to travel to as well. It's very cost efficient. It's not that expensive to get to, etc. We really put a lot of different things into consideration, but I do feel that us really just coming at it with the intention of wanting to put together a fun experience, and then kind of having our wedding day and night be almost that grand finale, kind of like a music festival, really came to life. And I think that's what made it so special for everyone involved.
Yeah. And I mean, it's another kind of, I guess we'll call it a cliche, but the road to happiness. And that's what is it, 413 is known for in that area. And it is. I mean, it truly was that road to happiness for so many people. I mean, my dad and his friends that went fishing still talk to this day about it. They loved it. And we're talking about some people that, I mean, they've all traveled and done it, but they're like, when are we going back? Everybody that we've talked to about, like, in the past little bit, or just past our wedding, is like, when are we going back? When are we going back? And we definitely will be making a trip back for sure. And we'd love to have everybody join us, I think, again. It just was such a cool thing.
100%. And even if you're listening to this episode right now and you've become friends with us via Instagram or through the podcast, and you're feeling called to it and you want to come meet us down there next time we're going, I mean, honestly, more the merrier. Like, absolutely.
And it truly is such a place that it opens your heart, opens your eyes. It's amazing. I grew up in a small town, very small town. It has that small town vibe. It is easy to get to. You can be in a major city in a couple hours, but you're also, if you want to have that more super small town surf vibe, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to get away. We wanted to have a relax. We wanted to get married outside. My only requirements, I wanted to be married outside, and I didn't want to have to wear dress shoes. Yep. And I got both of those. I didn't even wear shoes. Neither one of us did.
And I wanted to be barefoot. So I think everyone was barefoot.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I wanted to be around water, for sure. For me, I wanted to be close to water. So it was perfect.
For sure. So day of our wedding, really throughout our wedding, we didn't do things completely by the books. We followed some traditions and everything like that. However, there was a couple things that we did that were just unique to us and what felt right to us. And that's what I really loved as well, such as the day of our wedding, we opted to spend the night together, wake up together, and that was such a grounding experience. And I needed personally to physically be with you at the beginning of the day. And we woke up, we did a little meditation on our porch. We watched the sunrise together, and then we went out and surfed. We were right off of our villa that we rented, Villa Playa Maria, right off of the break over at Maria's beach there. So we got to go surf together for like 45 minutes and then came back, and all of our friends had made a big breakfast for us. And then we separated for the day. But I really love that element as well of us. That's what felt meaningful to us. And it really then just, again, paved the path for a beautiful day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those things, like having that special moment with you in the morning, out on the water, just the two of us, it really did set the tone for everything. And also having our amazing photographer show up, Greg, and get in the water with us and capture some of the most epic shots of the day right off the bat. And it was very, I don't want to say cool, but it was very cool. It was very loving. And you and I had just some nice heart to heart moments out in the water, and it brought us together, and it set that path, and we had the best day ever.
We totally did. You calmed me down a lot. I got a lot of nerves that day. It kind of suddenly the overwhelm of having to be in the spotlight, And just having to, suddenly kind of show up for everyone that day. I remember saying to you, I was like, I wasn't worried about marrying you. I just was like, whoa, this is a lot, just really kind of pulling at just a little bit of the comfort levels and things like that.
Well, and on top of it, you don't like to be center of attention. And that day is center of attention. All eyes are on you. I mean, they can say all eyes are on the couple, but realistically, it's even more all eyes are on the bride.
Being emotionally vulnerable is something that I've really been learning. Yeah. Starting with our wedding, probably.
And it was one of those things where I don't want to call it like it was a show, but it wasn't a show. And since with being my performing background, that kind of stuff, I don't get those nerves. I don't get those nerves in front of people. So for me, I was kind of like, okay, what's the big deal? But then I was also like, I was able to reconnect with you and say, okay, this is not, and it's not the norm for either one of us, but it was one of those things that like it brought us that much closer and it opened our hearts that much more.
Absolutely. And then following that, I'm trying to like go through in my mind what was so unique, just things that we did a little bit differently or that we wanted to do for our wedding, just to kind of give the listeners like a really good preview of it. Like I had a yoga instructor come to the villa and she did a beautiful heart opening yoga session for myself and some of my friends and my mom and really any females who wanted to attend that day. And then we went off, we got ready. Again, we said that we were barefoot. We ended up being I was barefoot at least all night. I think you were too. I
never put shoes on since I put shoes on to go to my massage. So you had booked me a massage. You surprised me with a massage. I did put shoes on for that, and that was it. That was the only thing. And I think I wore my shoes for about 10 minutes that whole day.
Shout out to Jeff with the hands. Great masseuse down in Rincon if he's hopefully still down there.
Yeah.
And then we wrote our own vows, which was really special. I really loved that. I love rereading or re-listening to our vows. That was really wonderful. We had fresh coconuts for our guests. You could have rum in them if you wanted, or just the coconut water. I really loved that aspect.
And that was right. And that was right when guests walked in. We wanted to cultivate that, and we wanted to just open. We didn't want to have it be like, oh, it's all perfect and proper and that kind of stuff. And if you want that, that's great. If that's how you feel like your wedding needs to be, definitely do it. But that just wasn't our style at all. We wanted everybody to enjoy themselves, have fun, but also just be as present as possible. We also asked everybody, hey, put your cell phones away. It's great to have photos and that kind of stuff, but we had phenomenal photographers, phenomenal videographers. Be present. Be with all of us. And pretty much everybody did, which was super cool.
I love the fact that our wedding planners, Rincon Events, that because it's their business, for their Instagram story, they took little snapshots. I think it was Cassandra who did it throughout the night. So then that day later, 2 days later, when I pulled my phone open, I loved being able to immediately see that visual recap that they had did for that. I know I screen recorded it because that was super special. And then to that point, hiring wedding planners, the photographer, Greg and Francis just became our new best friends. And they also take the sickest photos I've ever seen. But hiring wedding planners was definitely, I don't want to put anything in linear as to what was the best decision, because everything was honestly phenomenal. But I will say hiring wedding planners is worth the money, hands down. And
I think we went into that because obviously you've done events. I've been a part of events, all that kind of stuff. We know what goes into it. And you looked at me right from the start and said, I do not want to have everybody coming to me the day of my wedding to get things done. And yes, our scenarios are definitely more unique because we were at a destination, that kind of stuff. So it was much easier to just, here's the wedding. They take care of everything from lining up the food, tables, chairs, all that kind of stuff. But it was one of those things that for us was worth every penny plus more. It was amazing. The entire staff of Rincon Events, everybody that was a part of it was insane. Even the entire staff at Villa Playa Maria and Maria's and those guys, they were amazing. And if you can afford a wedding planner and that kind of stuff, just having that, that ease, that your mind is at ease. You don't really have to, nobody's coming to you for a bunch of things. If you can't do it, try to have a friend or somebody help you with that. If everything's coming to you as the bride, because there's so many emotions, it happens so quick. You really do. Everybody told me before, like, oh, enjoy every moment of it. It's going to happen. You're going to blink and it's going to be over. And it was, but it wasn't for me. Like, I definitely took some steps away and made a conscious effort of like taking a step away at points and looking at the entire crowd and everybody. But it was also like, yeah, it was snap of the fingers, it was over. And just having that extra bit of, we'll call it taken off your plate, where you don't have to worry about those little ins and outs, was definitely amazing.
100%. And really just not having to be in control for once, I think was like the biggest thing. And we did a lot of that too. I mean, we reduced our decor and our wedding was beautiful. We also gave the wedding planners too, kind of, here's what we're looking for, but this is what you do on a daily basis. So like, have fun with it, get creative. I remember at the end just to kind of try to reduce as much of the budget as we could, because it was like, okay, are we spending, just where are we allocating the money towards? And we did. We reduced the size of the centerpieces, and like, you didn't even notice that. And we also didn't have all the DIY and just making all the extra thanks to Pinterest that comes with a wedding. That is phenomenal if that's what is important to you and that's what you really, really care about. However, cultivating just the universal energy of love that we felt between ourselves and our guests. And I mean, even just working with the staff, our wedding planners, the staff at Villa Playa Maria, like you said, I mean, I loved getting to know and being with them just as much too. Like, that was very much a part of it.
And it's crazy now because like I call them all friends. Like, I could easily go and have dinner with everybody, whether it be from the staff, all that kind of stuff. Like, it was one of those crazy things that like, and we're definitely going to go back and we will have dinner with all of them. And it's crazy how it just wasn't an event for us. It was, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It was amazing. And the speeches as well. I do just want to pay tribute to our parents and our best friends and just the whole dinner environment. But the speeches were phenomenal. And then
the food was insane.
Everything was just so amazing. Some of your friends jumped off the terrace into the pool off the pergola, into the pool that was right by the pool bar. And then your dad ended up jumping off with them. That then every single person jumped into the pool at that point. I also want to touch on the music as well, because we went a little bit off the radar, off the traditional wedding music that you would normally see at a wedding.
Our wedding music was insane. Elijah and Ricard of Pina Express. It was amazing. And it definitely was one of those things that I think you and I'm not going to say this, mainly you second guessed it a lot. And even I did at some points of like, is this going to be good? Because it's a DJ with a live saxophone. It was that tropical house. That's what they play.
Sunset, chill house vibes, not a lot of lyrics, just amazing. I mean, feel it in your heart and soul music.
Yeah. And we obviously had people our age, we had people our parents' age. It was one of those like, and we didn't want though, and it was perfect, we didn't want the standard covers. We didn't want the standard music. And it was amazing because those two are true musicians through and through.
We had honestly a private concert house music party for our wedding. And I know I was like, dreaming of like, oh, it'd be so fun to bring in this person and bring in this person. But Elijah and Ricard were so much better than any quote unquote person with a name that we could have brought in. Not that we would have done that. We're not that bougie. But for me, it was like, I don't even know how to describe it.
And that's the crazy thing is like you say like, oh, these people with name, like Ricard was Ricky Martin's saxophone player. Elijah opened for Sam Felt, for all these top DJs. Like they are professionals. There's no doubt about it. So it's one of those things like, and we're all just human at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. That's what we are. It's nobody's bigger, better than anyone. And just that amazing music, the change, how like right after you were done doing your father-daughter dance, that music changed and everybody got on the dance floor and it never stopped. Nobody ever stopped until we had to stop at 11 o'clock because that's the curfew.
Yeah, it was a dance party all night and then we also had a bonfire on the beach after to, again, kind of completing the cycle, close it down. That was so much fun.
With s'mores. S'mores were awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Something that just came to mind though, you mentioned fire breathing earlier. For anyone who's not familiar with fire breathing or understands the extent of your father, fire breathing, do you want to just explain what that is?
Basically, you blow fire. You've probably seen it at a circus or in a movie, something like that. Some of my good friends who actually taught us how to breathe fire, what was that, 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
First summer together.
They had learned how to breathe fire for one of their shows, kind of one of those party tricks that they now do all the time. I kind of saw them in the corner of my eyes go off and grab some stuff, and I was like, oh, here we go. Here's where stuff could get out of hand really quickly, but it didn't. They are professionals at what they do. They are professionals. Taught my dad how to do it, which was amazing. My dad did it a couple of times. They also then, Greg and Francis of the photographers, got a amazing photo that actually ended up winning them an award this year with it. And it was one of those things, like everybody asks me, like, oh, do you regret anything or wish that you would have done something on your wedding night and I go, no, the only thing that I wish I would have done was breathe fire with my wife, but we can recreate that down in Rincon when we go down, and we'll get an even more epic shot of it. But it was so crazy because to see my dad and everybody else, and everybody it was all done professionally. Everyone was safe. It wasn't anything crazy, but like you said, Dad jumped off the top balcony. Dad learned how to breathe fire. I don't know if he had more fun or I had more fun, but it was, and everybody, just like you said, or even earlier, was everybody's in the pool. I think out of the 74 people that were there, I think about 68 of them were in the pool, I think, which was cool.
Everyone just had a really fun time, including our parents. Like, it was great to see everyone just play and be kids again and have the time of their lives. And, it's so symbolic about just really not taking any moment for granted, trying your best to really strip away the limiting beliefs, your insecurities. And trust me, I know it's not that easy at all. However, just to really look back on life and not have any regrets, especially not knowing, you never know what the future is going to hold. But shortly following our wedding, a few months later, COVID struck the US and we all went in.
Struck the world. True. Excuse me. Yes. And we all went into lockdown. We're not able to travel. It's really not safe to travel, whether within the US to other countries. Our passport still, I haven't looked into the US passport recently, but at a certain time this year, we couldn't get in hardly anywhere. It basically meant nothing. And I'm just so grateful that we had that experience, because this year has just really, for me, has been very symbolic about just not taking life for granted. Always, be safe, etc. However, we really never know what the future can hold. So when you have the opportunity to choose joy, have fun, jump in a pool, breathe fire, dance all night, who cares what you look like dancing? Who cares if you've never listened to house music or listened to a live saxophone player? Just close your eyes, let go, and have fun. Absolutely. And then obviously, kind of right before COVID, we'll call it New Year's, a big day for us. We went and jumped out of an airplane. Another thing of when you mentioned just let go. And it was, thank you, Brennan and Rachel, by the way, for getting that for us. My best man and his fiance got us skydiving, which was amazing. So we did that on New Year's.
I think they termed it as jumping into marriage, which I love that.
Yeah. So it definitely was one of those things for us that it really did start off 2020 with a bang. And it's still going with a bang. It's amazing. We've had a lot of ups and downs. I had a career change. You've had a career change. There's so many things that have happened within 2020.
Had to close down our very first business, due to events that took place ahead of COVID. So for us, 2020 didn't just suddenly start getting churned up come March for us. We were churned up really, I think it was about January 6th, I believe. So we experienced all of that. But again, it's how you walk through life. Life is always going to ebb and flow.
I think of it as a roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. You're going to have your ups. You're going to be scared out of your mind. You're going to also have times where it feels like you're on a kiddie ride. You are going to constantly be on a roller coaster that is going to, like I said, scare the living bejesus out of you, but also then it's going to be very nice and easy and you're going to get through it. And I've always said it, God will never, or spirit or whoever you believe in, will never give you more than you can't take or than you can't handle. Everyone's tanks are different. You've taught me that, but it's also, you will get through your darkest moments. You'll get through your happiest moments. And it's keeping that awareness and keeping that understanding within yourself and respecting yourself, knowing when to take that time and say, hey, maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe I do need to. It's okay to lay on the couch all day if you need to. Not do it every day, but if you need to.
Give yourself permission to listen to those instincts and those internal voices that are telling you what you need or your body needs or your mind needs. They are there for a reason. So when you feel so run down that all you want to do is lay on the couch for 5 hours, do that. If you start doing it every day, let's take a look at it and let's figure out how we need to get you help, who we need to help you talk to. However, listen to that. If your body is telling you that you don't want any more animal protein and is calling you to go eat plants, go eat plants. If you're someone where you don't eat fruit, yet all you're craving is an apple, go eat that apple. Just listen to the internal cues and know as well that we all have a choice in life. Life is a choice. There is the power of free will. Yes, there is a destiny and the end road where our soul, again, like we're always going to end up where we're supposed to, whether it's an easier road or a little bit of a harder road, it's all going to end at that same place we're going. There is really no true end destination because what's the fun in that? Let's continue the journey always. However, we always have a choice. So yes, this year has been trying. It has been upsetting. It has been unlike anything we would have ever expected, yet we still have that choice. And I know it can be easier said than done, but all it takes is one little thing. Trying to find gratitude, trying to find the joy, finding just that sense of love and connection for the little things to start climbing out of a situation that feels like you're never going to get out of it.
Yeah, and it's opening your heart, opening your mind, opening yourself to be vulnerable, but most important, give yourself a giant hug. It's stuff like we said, it can be taken away from you in a heartbeat, or it can be best thing ever. Everything's going to be different for every person, even though you and I are living in the same house, doing the same quote unquote things. Yes, we don't do the same job, but for the most part, you would quote unquote say we live very similar lives, but yet we don't. We each handle things differently. We each do things differently. I've had my lows this year. You've had yours. I've had my ups. You've had your ups. It's been crazy to see the transformation even since, we'll call it from January, not even from our wedding, but from January, how much everything's changed. Like you said, business closed. You started school. I started a new job. All this stuff where you blink and we're already now in November, almost December, and you're like, where did the year go? And a lot of that was quarantine. We weren't allowed to go and do anything. We weren't allowed to go and travel. Like, think of, normally we would probably have gone and traveled and tried to do a whole bunch of stuff on the weekends or vice versa. Like how we
had a lot of trips get canceled.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we went was over our 1-year wedding anniversary. We finally got on a trip and we just did a staycation.
We drove an hour and a half away to the West Coast.
Yeah, which we used to live there, which is even better about it. Yeah. But it's one of those things, like, that place will always have a very special place in our heart. It's where we got engaged. It's pretty much where we had our first date. Mm-hmm. There's something about the West Coast of Florida for sure that has a special place in both of our hearts. And we both love sunsets. There's nothing wrong with that. We live on the east side of the lake here, so we get amazing sunsets, and it's awesome. It's insane. I'm sure if you follow either one of us on social media, you've seen our fair share of sunset photos, and we're not trying to be cliche. It's just that's how much we love them, and it's amazing. It's a great way to cap off the day, unwind, be grateful, get outside, and kind of be one with Mother Earth, and just experience what she has to offer and what we have to offer, and kind of gives us that it's something I'm very grateful for, because I get to put my arm around you. I get to kind of give you a hug, and it kind of just closes that off for me. And I know that, like, I'm home, I'm in love, and I'm forever grateful for it. And I know in a couple of years, we're definitely going to have little ones running around. So those moments might not happen. And I think that's what a lot of people also have asked, or they say, oh, when you have kids, it changes. Yes, it's going to change. There's no doubt about it. But it's also, like you and I have kind of talked and cultivated, like, we're going to try to continue to do things the way we do them. And yes, there will be another person there or multiples, but you're gonna figure it out, and we're not gonna hopefully let our love for each other and our love for sunsets and all that kind of stuff waver because of somebody else.
And I think it's just always coming back as a couple and searching for those moments of connection and those moments of intimacy, and understanding when you need to drop in together, whether from a physical touch, a conversation, getting away for 12 hours, or going to lunch for 2 hours, or finding that way to still connect together. Because even previously, up until this year, we were constantly traveling all of the time. I mean, I think we definitely, and I'm going to say, I know that we spent more time physically apart than we actually spent together up until this year. However, while this year, yes, we were seeing each other every day, going to work, going to bed together, even in quarantine, working right next to each other, we still weren't connected intimately or having a deep connection. So it was still taking the moments to find that connection together, whether that was through the sunset, through a quiet dinner on the back porch, just sitting on our porch, looking at the stars, through a fire pit, having deep conversations, and really honoring that sacred time together, knowing that soon our future isn't going to look like that. We'll get 5 minutes of quiet, a minute of quiet time as parents with little ones. And that's going to be such an incredible experience. But through that, through the chaos, through life, really finding that time to ground down, find connection, come together as a partnership, but then also come together as your own individual self as well, finding that connection within, because it's so easy to lose sight of that. And people can say, oh, you go to bed together every single night. That's so great. But yet
you could go to bed together and still not be present and still not have that connection. You could easily, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a couple nights this year that I was like, I was so removed, and it was my own thing, that I didn't feel that connect. And that was because of some stuff going on in my own head that I was making up and that kind of stuff. But it was like, I didn't feel the connection even with myself. So how could I feel a connection with you?
Right. I mean, part of the human experience.
And it was one of those things, like I just journaled it a little bit ago, of like, you have to hug yourself before somebody else can hug you. You have to do the work internally before nobody else can do it for you at that point. You have to love yourself unconditionally, because the others around you already love you unconditionally. But if you can't see that, you won't personally be able to see and be as present as possible with everybody. So once you love yourself unconditionally, everybody around you, you open yourself up that much more. Those high vibrations, everything about it, you can get yourself to a completely different level. Not saying that if you're in a funk or anything like that you won't get out, like you can get out of it, but it's also one of those things that you just gain so much when you work internally, because you have to work internally before you can work externally.
Yes, that is so much truth. I love how you said that. All right, Dan, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is something that you learned this year that you weren't really expecting to learn when you kind of initially set out at the beginning of this year in January of 2020?
I think the biggest thing for me, and I mean, that's a doozy of a question, by the way. I think the biggest thing for me was that with COVID and everything else, and like obviously you getting either stuck at home or not being able to go out and do everything that you normally have been, is slowing down and really teaching me, hey, you don't have to run 1,000 miles an hour all the time. Yes, there's points where I still was, but it was also like, hey, cool your jets, relax a little, and just that overall growing effect of trying to be as present as possible, but also just slowing down, taking the time, and opening your eyes to those little things, the sunsets, the little things that normally you'd probably just take for granted and move past. But it's like, hey, I was super grateful to come home every night, and super grateful to play with Mocha and that kind of stuff, and see you. And it was such a crazy year in an essence, but there's been a lot of things that have been learned and taught and brought on for sure.
Absolutely. How was that for you, slowing down as someone who had always kept a really fast pace throughout most of your life?
It was tough. Like it was, and I still am dealing with it. It's still one of those things that like I deal with on a daily basis, but it was for me physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. It had to happen for my health, for everything. I had to have that kind of slow down. Like you said, everything happens for you for a reason. It definitely was my crazy illness, definitely kicked me in the chest. I didn't learn a little bit. We now went through an entire pandemic with obviously having a autoimmune issue. You got to be extra careful, but also still trying to live my life as best as possible and not live in constant fear. For me, at least, I needed to still have outlets and that kind of stuff, but still learning how to slow down, still trying to be as best I can about it. So it's a work in progress, and I'm going to continue on it. And it's going to be that journey that never stops.
Yeah, I love it. Isn't it interesting how your life can also start to really radically unfold and start transforming when you really start honoring the ability to slow down, and also just really looking at every situation as a gift, because what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, really everything can be a gift. They say your perception is your reality. And I think that is such a true statement as well. But as it pertains to you and really trying to reduce the stress and everything, you definitely saw firsthand really your health take a turn for the better, just from an energy level, a sleep standpoint, being a better employee at work, a husband, a son, and also just, we were in the middle. You have an autoimmune disease. So obviously getting COVID for anyone who deals with a chronic illness, pre-existing health condition, autoimmune disease, underlying health condition that we're not aware of, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's a trying and scary time for everyone. However, really keeping fear out of the equation also really lowers the stress response as well. Yeah. And when we're stressed, our immune systems are weakened, and we're continuing to be very safe, very respectful, again, looking at the greater good for all. Obviously, of course, we have your best interest in mind, mine, my parents, your parent, just everyone involved, those who we see at Publix, just looking out for our society as a whole. This is a very just serious situation that's been presented to us. However, not acting out of fear, we've still really enjoyed life and had a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, we live in a place we've got a coast on each side. We can go surf. There's amazing things. And everybody, I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes to their local home of not, we need to go here to go hiking. Like, we found these amazing nature trails just right around the corner from us. Like, when was the last time we would have ever found that? And I think it just opens your eyes for a lot of people of staying home and being with your family and being present and understanding that your home has a lot to offer. But also, I know there's still a lot of people out there that are currently going back into lockdowns, all this kind of stuff. Very grateful that we haven't had to go back in. But if that's what needs to happen for the greater good, I'm not opposed to it, but make sure that everything's done in the proper ways and make sure that everything's taken care of before we just make a decision about something or something that's out of context a little bit.
Absolutely. And there are so many ways to also look out for your immune system as well.
Yeah. And that's the other crazy thing is, for me, like you said, like, you've helped a ton. I'm not going to lie. You've done 99% of the work. You've done all the research. You've done all this. You've cooked, you've cleaned, you've done so much for me. You've been above and beyond what a wife should ever do, in my opinion. And I'm forever grateful for that. But the other thing has been, if you would have asked me a year ago that I would be 95% plant-based, I would have laughed. I would have been like, no way. I still do enjoy meat every once in a while, but it's cleaner meat. Yes, there's been some times that I've slipped up and had some fast food or pizza and that kind of stuff. Pizza's my kryptonite. I love it. But one of those things that for me, it's been so cool to see my body transform. And like, I flew up to Michigan a month and a half ago. Normally, every time I jump on a flight, I'd be sick when I'd come home. Came back, never got sick. Awesome. Insane. Like, putting the right fuel into your body to get the right stuff out has been absolutely amazing. And you've taught me that, and your programs and everything else. And I think you kind of used me as a test dummy a little bit for some stuff. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm always glad to help and learn and change. But it's been so amazing to see myself change and everything, but also you change and how much you've grown and how much you've given back to so many people already in such a very short amount of time. So I've got a question for you. Okay. I know you said, you've told me this, you haven't really told, I'm sure you've told other people this, but you've wanted to help. All you've wanted to do is help one person. All you've wanted to do is help one person. So to continue on helping, what do you think's going to be your own personal biggest growth for the rest of 2020, for this last month and a half, and then also moving into 2021? How do you see yourself growing as a person? And I know that's a tough question to answer, but how do you continue doing the great things that you've already been doing?
Well, to continue, so it's interesting. You know, I've received this message many times internally from a higher power, or whatever name you elect to call it, that my purpose in this life is to help others, to guide others to find their true potential. And I truly believe, after lots of just experiences, that the best way that I can truly help others tap into their own potential is to continue tapping into my potential and peeling back the layers and doing what is uncomfortable. It's funny, you know, you look at a journey and you think it's so easy to look at someone and maybe place I don't want to call it a judgment, but for lack of a better word, a judgment that their life is all together. Oh, and everything's great. And they've gone through, you know, nothing can harm them. Your life is always far worse than somebody else's. To be honest, that's so not true. Everyone has their own different size tanks of what they can handle in this lifetime. And everyone is experiencing their own experiences per what their soul has elected to experience in this lifetime, which also kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. But what I'm trying to get at here is, the more I continue to do the work within myself and do the uncomfortable work and look at the different sides of myself that I never really analyzed before and crack those open and understand why they are there, and really just get more vulnerable. Vulnerability has been a really key theme, and I truly believe that the more vulnerable I become to myself and really surrendering and letting go, and then also becoming vulnerable to society and others, and just really opening up and talking about who I am at a cellular level, at a soul level, through the cosmos, with where I've been, where my soul has been, where my soul is going in this lifetime, is what is then in turn really going to start helping other people that much more, and help me have that, assist me in having a greater impact on those around me who I elect to serve. And I also know, I visualize it, that there are just so many people out there, like right on the horizon, ready to work with me and have me assist in guiding them. And it's really not, I'm not the one doing the work for others. I'm just guiding them and helping them connect the dots and look for the little synchronicities in life. Like, nothing is a coincidence. I firmly believe that. I mean, down to the fact that when we met, I had just moved back from New York City 8 months before that, elected to come work back at an employer that I was not happy with at the beginning, yet somehow convinced myself that it would be better the second time around, which it wasn't. But what did I gain from that? I met you. And there's no coincidence in that. You have moved back from Japan, I think a year and a half before that, whatever the time was. Time doesn't really matter. Taryn as well, one of my best friends to this day, I met her. And again, there's no coincidences in that. I think I kind of just went off on a tangent there, but to circle back and properly answer your question, the more that I continue to unravel my own layers and do the work that feels uncomfortable and tap into the emotions that I've been trying to avoid, because we're all human. We only want to do what feels comfortable, even though the comfortableness and keeping us safe is really what keeps us stuck and stagnant. And it's willing to walk through the fire, uncover the layers, try something different, even
lean into it.
Doesn't work out. Yes, lean into it. Exactly. Surrender, let go, go with the flow. I don't want to call it trusting the process, because I feel like trust the process is a very like bumper sticker type of word.
But it is one of those things, like you just kind of gotta, and that's what you've taught me this past year. It's one of those things that kind of recap what you had asked me earlier, but like you always constantly say, hey, lean into it, quit resisting this, like lean into it, move forward, move past this. You have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. You have to get really, really deep and really, really where you don't want to go to get past that said thing that you don't want to go do.
I love it. Thank you for that. So this conversation was so much fun. I definitely think it would be really fun as a couple to jump on here more. I can't wait to hear what the listeners thought. If anyone has more questions for us, obviously definitely pose those on Instagram. Dan, I would love to have people understand where they can connect with you, find you, follow you, understand better what you are up to. And then, as with every episode, I do like to close out with some loving your own soul questions. But before we get to that, where can people find you?
So you can find me, obviously, all social media stuff. My Facebook is just Dan Olson, Olson. And then my Instagram is the original _ Dano. Long story there. If you go and listen to another podcast, you can figure out that one from a good friend of ours, Danny Amir, or the Golden Mike. Also, one of those things that and then the other place to find me is the Olson Project, the non-for-profit that we started after my illness and all that kind of stuff. But many things to come from that, many things to come from myself, but that's where you can kind of find me. So the original _ Dano or just Dan Olson on Facebook.
All right. On to some loving your own soul questions. Dan, first question. What was something you loved to do as a child?
Just be outside. That was probably and it was playing in the dirt. It was riding my bike. It was whatever. It was as long as I could be outside, that's probably my happiest place. And I'm still that way. If I can be outside, if I can be on the water, whatever I can do to be outside, I'm going to be outside. Whether it's 120 degrees outside, whether it's 60 to below outside, I pretty much want to be outside.
Outside is the best. If you were to give yourself a piece of advice right now, what would that be?
Keep slowing down. Keep enjoying the moment. Be as present as possible.
I love that. I got a message a week ago, I think, or a couple weeks ago. I don't know. Might have been last night. I'm not really sure. No, it wasn't. That said, keep going slow. Go slower than you've ever gone before. And I just love that because I think I'm like, oh, I have gone slow, but it's like, no, this message just keeps resonating of go slower, go even slower. Again, we talk about peeling back the layers. Going as slow as possible is a huge feat to overcome in our hustle heavy society.
Well, and I think it's one of those things I think you said this earlier in the year to me, it was like, just be normal, try to be normal. And I was like, but normal, what is normal? What is normal at that point? But I think it's that be slow, slow down, and be slower than what you think you need to be.
Be different, be as different from how you've been as possible and just see what that's like. Because we're all just experiencing things.
Yeah, you can always go back to it. You can always go back to if you're absolutely not, this is not for me, then you could go back. Yeah, perfect. But you've at least tried it. You've opened yourself up to it. But not just try it quickly. Dive deep. Try it with full heart. And I need to listen to that myself. And I think a lot of people, you've told yourself this, it's that good guy, bad guy on your shoulder. They're going to keep in your ear all the time. It's your own ego can sometimes get in its own way and prevent you from being the truest and most amazing person that you can be.
It's funny. I have a lot of questions I want to ask you, but I feel like I already know the answers to them, which is kind of weird, but I'm going to.
You're my wife, so that's not that weird.
Right. I know. But so I'm just going to ask it anyway. Yep. Do you have a spirit animal or a favorite animal?
I would probably say it's either going to be, I got two. Bald eagle, bald eagle, and then probably a dolphin would be for a fish. Even though dolphins don't fish, but I want to
Cool.
Yeah, my sea animal.
If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be?
Probably, initially I thought apple, but then I kind of switched to orange. Because kind of a little bit of a rougher skin outside, but super sweet and kind of that very tangy inside. So you never know what you're going to get. You can get a good apple or a bad apple, or a good orange or a bad orange.
That is so true. Everything is unknown. Let's see. What is one thing that you are most looking forward to in the upcoming year?
To continue to grow, to continue to learn, I think is the biggest thing for me. And if 2020's taught us all anything, it's you never know what can unfold, and just be as present as possible. But my biggest thing, I think, is learning everything if we can. I've got a couple of questions for you.
Ooh, okay. Flipping the switch. If you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be? Loaded question.
It is a loaded question, but I was going for it.
So it's funny.
Okay, I'll give you 3 options. You get one warm, or actually 2 options. One warm, one cold.
Okay. Well, right before you said that, the first thing that actually came to mind, which I've been really working on tapping into what I feel, hear, see, or think first, and that was outer space.
Ooh.
Actually.
Okay.
But I kind of love that.
And little Elon Musk gonna go out there, have some fun.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Something about just sitting in the stars and the cosmos in outer space, looking like bouncing from every planet. I don't know. It just came to me that I was like, man, that sounds like so much fun right now. But to pick one warm and one cold.
Yes. Here on Earth.
Yes. Here on Earth. Gosh, it is honestly so difficult for me to pick that because I could pick so many places, but I'm feeling like Asia is what I would elect to go to. So a warm over in that area of the world. So a warm destination. I'm probably going to have to say Bali. I think probably because I'm sitting here with you. I really wanted you to be there with me when I was in Bali. And as soon as I landed, I never felt super connected to it. Again, synchronistically, because little did I know, 48 hours later, I would be leaving and flying home to you and everything would be changing after that. However, probably Bali, because I'd really like to experience that and the Balinese culture and just slowing down and surfing, etc. I don't need to get into it. I think everyone pretty much understands what Bali is at this point. And then a cold destination, I would have to say Japan, which is funny because they're kind of unlike me because these are both places I've been to before. However, I just really loved Japan and the Japanese culture. And I was looking at my geographical chart the other day, which I'm trying to learn more about and understand it. And I have a lot of lines that go through Japan that are really positive lines. So I thought that was interesting because I really loved that country when I got there. I know Japan can be hot or cold, but I would like to see winter Japan.
Yeah, very cool. If you had one food that you had to eat every day, you had one thing you had to eat it, you could never get sick of it, you had to eat it every day, what would that one food be?
Papaya.
That was an easy answer for you.
I eat it every day and I've never gotten sick of
it. Actually, this will probably be a good one for some of your listeners. Where did you come up with the title of Loving Your Own Soul? And how did that come about?
That is such a good question. I'm so glad that you asked that. So I kind of want to say I have no idea. No, but let me back up on that. So I had originally, so what we say, I like to believe that what is for you will never leave you. And when I listened to my very first podcast about 6 years ago, it was in 2014, it was The Lively Show with host Jess Lively, and she was interviewing Hal Elrod of The Miracle Morning with my friend Taryn. We were driving to a work event and she put it on. I had actually listened to, what do you call it? I can't think of it. The Serial. I think it was just called Serial. It was like a... I don't even remember what it was even about. Murder mystery, maybe? Murder mystery. Not interview style. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. I had listened to that for a second living in New York because everyone was listening to it. And I was like, okay, not super interested in this. But my true first podcast experience was through Taryn. And I will never forget sitting there. And while I was very enthralled in the information being presented, the main thing at the forefront of my mind was, what is this? How can I do this? I need to do this. How can I become a podcast host? And then typical human, basically tried to erase that from my memory and tell myself that, well, that's impossible. I could never actually do that. And now here I am. But I had started a blog called Finding Viridian. originally that had an Instagram profile and a blog, and just through some various dialogues that took place in my life. Unfortunately, I started listening to everyone else except for myself during that time. So I removed it. I stopped doing it. I really loved it at the time. And with finding Viridian, I came up with the phrase that finding Viridian at the time was a mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. And that is the tagline of Loving Your Own Soul today. Yep. And I find that so interesting that I wrote that tagline 6 years ago, 5 years ago, erased it. And when I was looking to bring my podcast back, I reread that. And first of all, I was like, wow, I wrote that. That has like so much to unpack inside of that statement. But I was just like, no, that is what it is. That is what I'm doing in life. That is how I'm living my life. So that stuck. And to be honest, going off of that tagline was how I then generated the name Loving Your Own Soul. And I went through, I don't even remember what the other variations I had were, because it's very hard nowadays. And I feel really bad for our children and future generations to ever name a business, grab their own Instagram handle, start a podcast, anything that's going to be somewhat original, because I feel like so much is taken. But I know there will be new forms of language, and who knows what that will look like. So yeah, so Loving Your Own Soul really became the condensed version, the name, the forefront of what you see. But Loving Your Own Soul is a mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul.
There you go, everybody.
To that point, final question that I ask all of my guests. When did your exploration to diving deeper into your own soul first begin, and how has it evolved since then?
I would probably say diving deep would have been right after I got sick. So a couple of years ago, I'd always like dabbled in it and this and that, and had done different things and all that. But diving deep into it and really being like, okay, why did this happen to me? Why did this scenario go on? I mean, I probably want to happened to me at a younger age, but then to really kind of have it like a big thing happen and be like, okay, let me figure out what's going on here. Why did this giant scenario, why did this major event life happen? But then also it's ever changing for me. It really is. It's so crazy to see myself a month ago compared to now, where you would ask me a month ago or a couple months ago, you saw me. I was all over the place. I was not in the right headspace. I was down on myself for no reason. I was beating myself up. It's ever changing, but it's one of those things that it's going to continue to change. And all I can do is be kind to myself, be kind to people around me, and it will work out. Everything has its time and its place. And it's been a crazy year for everyone, but it's also been even a crazier year for me, I feel. But I'm not any different than anybody else. I'm still just a human. I'm still just a soul, and I'm still just a soul living in a human experience right now and experiencing this soul for this human experience. So to kind of recap and go back to your question, it's been ever changing. It's going to continue to change, and tomorrow is going to be completely different than today was. So it's, even if you do the same job in and out over and over, it's still, your day is different. Your breaths are different. Your steps are different. Everything is a little bit different, and be grateful, appreciative, and thankful to yourself for those things that you do. Yes, you can go down a road of possibly beating yourself up for the things that you do, but you also do a lot of great things. All of the little small wins they add up to more than that one giant win. Simple as that. Understand and recognize your small wins. Don't just focus on your big ones.
Well said. Would you say that we all always have the opportunity to choose again or begin again?
I definitely do. I definitely do. We can sit here and say, oh, there are certain scenarios that they wouldn't, but no, I do. They 100% do. And if you say to me, oh, Dan, you're so full of crap, I can't do this because of that, actually you can. You can If I wanted to learn how to play the guitar and I'm not musically talented or gifted at all, if I wanted to learn, should be able to learn how to play a guitar and an instrument. I mean, I was really bad at even the recorder back in grade school, but I still learned how to do it. So, and my mom can attest for that I was not good at it. And or even the fact that like I can hardly clap on beat.
But what is on beat?
And that's a whole nother question. There's a lot of what is and what isn't. And it's ever changing. We're always going to be better and always continue to learn, I think is the biggest thing for everybody. Never stop learning. Doesn't matter if you're 95 years old or you're 2 years old. Always keep learning, whether it's that one little new word or something different, and you're always progressing, because that's always going to be how you become better and grow as a human.
And we're always a student.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it on the head. Be a student, learn, be open, be grateful, be humbled, but also be yourself and be your truest self that you can be.
Absolutely. So I lied. That was going to be our last question, but I actually have one more question just to fully wrap this whole episode up, since it is my last one for 2020, my final episode for the very first season of starting my podcast, which feels so surreal, so amazing. But to really wrap up the cycle of looking at years prior, this year, everything like that, this time next year, December 1st, 2021, name 3 things that you will have experienced, achieved, somewhere you'll be, etc. Because our thoughts become beliefs and our beliefs become actions. So we are truly manifesting out here, putting this on a public platform. Yes.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a loaded question in a way. But December 1st, 2021, probably the first thing would be trying to be still as present as possible and work on that every day. Second thing, our parents will probably be super excited about this, especially both of our moms, but probably either have a kid or have a kid on the way. Probably by that point would be my guess. Or be trying. Probably be trying for sure. So.
Yep. Woohoo! I can hear him celebrating now.
Hear him, yeah. Whole Sherry and
Big sigh of relief.
Big sigh of relief there. And then the third thing would be continue to build my dream life with you, and continue to build and manifest and build all of those things, because I can't wrap it up in one, but all of the things with you and you by my side, and continuing to help you with your endeavors and you help me with mine and all of that. And it's going to be absolutely insane.
I love it. Well, Dan, thank you so much. You are such an inspiration, and just getting to share time with you like this was just so nice, so wonderful. I so look forward to seeing where we will sit this time next year. And yeah, happy
2020, happy 2021, that it's going to be here before we know it. Thank you to everybody out there. Thank you all the listeners, but also thank yourself, and just be grateful, be present, give yourself a giant hug. Even if mentally, give yourself a hug.
Yeah. Thank you for showing up for you today. No matter where you sit, no matter what you have going on, no matter what you have experienced this year. Thank you for waking up for you today, for showing up today, for electing to listen to this episode. No matter when you are listening to it, do know that you are co-creating the life that you've always imagined. And sometimes we just have to take one more step in front of the other in order to just keep on moving. Wow, you guys. Was that not such an incredible conversation? To be honest, when we were recording it, I really didn't quite understand or really remember, which often happens when what we were talking about and everything like that. But in re-listening and editing it, I just got filled with so many emotions. I hope you all did too. I just find it to be such a powerful conversation. Dan is he's an incredible man, human being. I am just so honored to be his wife and be able to walk through life with him. I definitely look forward to having him on the podcast more. So as always, please do let us know what you thought of the episode. We would love to hear from you. Any takeaways or questions you also have for us, definitely feel free to reach out. But yeah, it was such a fun episode. I am so honored. Thank you all for sticking it out. I know that it was a little bit long, but I think the information was pretty incredible. With that being said, this is it. Final episode of 2020. Thank you all for being here. If you have made it this far and you do feel called to leave a rating and review, please know that I would be so honored, as ratings and reviews are really the best way to continue expanding and sharing podcasts and helping them reach the right ears and listener base that they deserve. So if you feel called to leave a rating and review, please do so. And in exchange, I would love to send you a free gift. So all you have to do, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, screenshot it, email me the proof to lovingyourownsoul@gmail.com. And in exchange, I will send you my special gift. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in here with me. And I cannot wait to continue on with season 2 starting in January of 2021.